Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Wednesday, y'all. I thought I would jump on here for just a moment as we keep exploring ways for you to get aligned into your purpose, which ultimately is you. Once again, your purpose is that light, it's that space, it's the whole reason that you are here. You are your purpose. One of the things I do is when I'm working with people around getting that clarity on what you really desire is there's three questions I ask my clients. And so I thought I would bring those questions to you. There are deeper levels for what we do inside these questions, but I thought I would give you a space to be able to contemplate these questions and see what they mean for you and how they're showing up. And so essentially, the three questions are what I call your what, why, and who. So, your what being, what is it you want to create, impact, influence, affect, change, expand, experience in this lifetime? And oftentimes, what I do is I have people look at sort of a container of, let's talk about 2023, for example. Let's look at this year. If you think about your what, that really big, juicy space that's got you fired up, it's that what around what do you want to create? What do you want to influence? What do you want to impact? What do you want to affect or change? What do you want to expand? What do you want to experience? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to ask this question on a regular basis. Oftentimes, again, and if you watched my video yesterday, I talked about how we're shaming and shitting all over ourselves, which oftentimes is putting us in that space of busy, which is that, buried under the shitting all over yourself. It's that space that's got us taking action for the sake of taking action. It's got us on that never ending hamster wheel of life that's got us grinding all the time. It's got us hustling. What happens is when you get super clear around your what, you're super clear around what is calling through you. You're super clear around how you get to show up and bring value into the world. And there's different levels of how we can dig into this and what we can do to really help you explore that. But even just sitting with and sort of contemplating and or journaling what that means for you when you think about your what. And again, I'm going to say that your what is a space around you asking the question, what do I want to create? What do I want to affect? What do I want to influence, inspire, impact? What do I want to expand or experience? Or what is it that I want this year to represent? What is it I want when I look back? And one of the questions I always ask people inside that what space is, imagine if it's the end of the year, right? It's the end of 2023 right now. And you're looking back. And first of all, when we can look back and go, wow, I don't even recognize who I was when I started this year. There's real movement in that, right? There's real energy that propels us forward. And we're looking to continue to level up, right? We're always in a growth mindset. We're always looking to evolve. It's an ongoing journey and process. It's not about arriving at a destination. And so I want you to realize that what is not about an outcome as much as it is about a state of being. And so when I say, what do you want to create, affect, inspire, influence, impact, change, expand, experience? What is it you want this year to represent? What do you want to embody this year? It really comes down to the what of who you choose to be and what you're embodying in your own leadership and how you're stepping forward and how you're showing up in the world. And so that first question is all about your what. It is all about your mark, your living legacy. And so think about that. I've talked about that before, right? You're either doing your living legacy intentionally or your living legacy is happening regardless, right? You're either doing your living legacy or your living legacy is doing you. But what is it you want to bring to the world? How do you want people to experience you? What do you want that mark, that value, that space that you leave people with at every moment? All of that is part of what you have the opportunity to explore and get curious about when it relates to your what. So it is that space of how you're choosing to lead. It is your space. Hey, Diana. Excellent. I love hearing that. It's that space of you leading your living legacy. It's being intentional, because what happens is, how many of you already are like, holy shit, it's February 15th. What happened to the last month and a half? And if we're not stepping into a place to take that pause, if we're not taking a place to reflect on what it is we're actually wanting to put our energy and our focus on, what is that impact? What is your living legacy? What is that mark? time's just going to take over and move you through. And by the time it's October, you're going to look back and go, wow, what did I do this year? Right. And I hear this over and over and over again with the leaders and the clients that I work with, is oftentimes there's this miss of time, and time is that valuable resource we can never get back. Right. We keep delaying what is calling through us. We keep delaying that space of really impactful what. And so I want you to really think about that first question. Your what is a space of what do you, notice I didn't say everybody and their brother, and what do you want to create? What do you want to affect? What do you want to inspire, influence, impact, change, experience, expand, whatever that word is for you? I offer you the opportunity to sit in some curiosity to explore that. So that's question number one. The second piece that I work with people on is the why. And we hear a lot, and Simon Sinek, has a fantastic book and TED Talk out that talks about it starts with why. Like, why does that matter to you, right? And so I think about the fact that if this is the juicy what, if this is the desire, if this is the the living legacy that's calling through you to be led, if this is the thing that you can't shake, that says, this is what you're here to do, this is why you are your purpose, right? This is the light you have to shine. That's that what space. And it can be something that's just in your backyard, or it can be something that's really global, which calls through me. I think about my what. I also have a phrase that I call kind of your mighty mission. Who are you currently, and what are you becoming? And then your very vivacious, vital vision that says, this is what I'm evolving and expanding into, right? Again, it's that space of embodiment of how you want to be showing up and leading in the world. But the second question is really around why. Why does that matter to you? Not why does it matter to your partner or your spouse or your kids or your boss or your organization or your community, or why it's not about anybody else. If the what you want to create, impact, influence, affect, change, experience, if that what is showing up for you, and it's showing up for you boldly, it's showing up for you richly, if that's the what, why does that matter to you? And oftentimes we got to peel back the layers in the why. I know there's an exercise out there that's kind of the 7 levels of why, because when we think about the why, oftentimes we say the why that we think is what's driving us forward. And oftentimes we need to really peel that back layer by layer to get into the why that, and oftentimes I have clients that'll laugh. They're like, oh, now you got me crying again, right? And I'm like, because that why usually has some sort of visceral effect on you. The really profound, the real why is something that oftentimes is our most vulnerable, open, insecure space. Sometimes it's maybe a space in our life we didn't feel seen, or we didn't feel loved, or we want to offer something back. I know for me, even in working with leaders and the entrepreneurs and the clients and just the individuals I work with, and when I say leaders, by the way, that encapsulates a lot of people. It's not about a role or title. It's about those that are choosing to lead themselves first. And so when I think about working with those people, I look at my why, and the whole one of my really deep whys for doing this work was because I wanted to change the relationship between fathers and their daughters. And because of the abuse that I experienced, because of the trauma that I had with my dad, I realized that business and the military, he was a military guy, there's a lot of influence that comes into our homes, and oftentimes we're missing the emotional intelligence in those organizations, that when they're bringing that stress, when they're bringing some of those things, that is then what they parlay into their families and parlay into those relationships. And I think about if I can create deeper connections around that, so that so people are standing in their truth, that's really powerful for me, right? And so that why, what is that why, that compelling why for you? And so the first question being your what is it you want your mark and living legacy to be? And then the second question is, why does that matter to you? Why does that really, truly, on a very visceral, compelling, deep, probably from where some of your wounding and trauma and things are coming from, maybe not, but why is that sparking for you? And then the last question, which is really important, is around who do you serve? It's amazing to me when people will say, I'm for everyone. No, you're not. you are energetically not here for everyone. And so we need to get into a space that extends beyond simply a demographic. I hear a lot of people when they're marketing, well, we serve, women that are 35 to 65 and it looks like this, or they have this much income. I think about people talk about income levels, or they talk about gender, or they talk about different characteristics that oftentimes are external. And we create a demographic around who we think we serve. What I'm going to offer and challenge you on is to go deeper. While that aspect, yes, some people would say, I work only with women, or I work with men, or I work with veterans, or I work with whether, that's great. And there's a really big compelling and that needs to be included. And that's, what are the characteristics, the personality traits, and the energy of the people you want to call forward. And so I work with people to look at, what are you no longer available for? Like, who are the people you're not available for? Be really clear around whose energy you don't want in your sphere. And that's really important. And sometimes it's easier to create the space of what you don't want first, so you can recognize then. And the work that I do with people, anytime we're talking about what I don't want, immediately the question then is, what do you want? And so what I would suggest is, as you're thinking about your who, is that you look at, who don't I enjoy being around? Like, whose energy drains me, or who do I find toxic, or who, and make that list. And then look at that list and say, if those are my non-negotiables, if those are the people I'm not available for, then how do I sit in a space and imagine who I'm really for? And I'll give you some examples. When I talk about people that are my people, they are people who are truly leading themselves. And what I mean is, they are taking a level of ownership, responsibility, and personal accountability that says, I am owning my shit. I know that what is happening in my life is a result of what I think, what I've put into motion, what I'm doing. I'm looking for those leaders, those people, those individuals who have that level of awareness. They are on a constant journey and evolution to grow themselves. They know that there is not a destination that they're arriving at, but this is an ongoing game. They're hungry, right? I work with people that are hungry. I work with people that are heart-centered, soulful. They have a vision or desire to do something that's truly impacting the world. They feel this energy of being a change agent or a catalyst, or they know something is calling through them. And I've got a list a mile long of all of the things that, when I call in my people, some of you that are showing up right now, you're called in for a reason. This, even you being here right now, you're here with great purpose, because there's an energy I've aligned to that said, and I love, Diana even saying, I need this message today, right? When you are energetically aligned to that which you are asking for, even if it's on an unconscious level, it shows up, right? There's the saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I would also say that when the teacher is ready, the students appear. And so it's kind of like that notion of, when you keep thinking about something and you're like, how do I solve this? What do I do? And that book comes flying off the shelf, right? I know this happens to me all the time. I love books. I buy a shit ton of books all the time. And I have an addiction to buying books. And there's books that I'll buy and they'll just sit. And I'm like, I know that book spoke to me. I know I had to buy it, not feeling like reading it. And then all of a sudden I'll have asked a question, or I'll want to tap into something bigger. And that who shows up, because it's that author, that message, that opportunity. I love the way that Robin Sharma says this. It's as if when you read, you get to sit at the table with that author and engage in a conversation with them. And I really do look at reading in that capacity, where I get to sit down and see someone else's perspective. I get to play with that a little bit. And oftentimes, and if you were around me in my house, I talk out loud when I read sometimes, because it's as if I'm having a conversation and I'm pondering and I'm asking these questions. I've called that through. I'm ready to receive what I need to take that inspired action to move forward. And yesterday, if you jumped onto my live, I talked about inspired action. This is the way to get yourself aligned so that the inspired action drops in naturally, so that it truly is something that feels effortless. And this is a thing that's always astonishing to some of my clients when we get going on things is they'll ask, how long does it take for these things to happen? And my response is, as soon as you give yourself permission to rise to the next vibration and energetic frequency that you need to call it in. And it starts with what you believe. It starts with changing your mindset. It starts with changing your own language to yourself, but it also starts with you getting clear about what it is you really want to be calling forth. That's the what space, why that matters to you. Because I will tell you, there are days that get challenging. And if I didn't have a compelling why, it would be really easy some days to just pull the covers over my head, lay in the fetal position and say, I'm out. Now, I do have a few days like that, and that's me taking some self-care because I'm probably overloaded. I've taxed my adrenals. I'm noticing my cup is diminishing, my cups spiritually, mentally, emotionally, energetically, physically, whatever it is, I'm depleted somewhere. So I do honor that when it's the right thing to do, but I don't let it pull me out when it's just because it scares me or just because I'm nervous or apprehensive about what is calling me through. Because there's been days that I have freaked out when I get the inspired action and the download. I'm like, you want me to do what with what? And literally that's what I'll say out loud. I'm like, what? That's cute. That's too big. And it's funny because sometimes I get these nods from the universe. It's kind of like, okay, Candy, you're cute. When you're done fighting with this, when you're done with the bullshit in your head, this is what I need you to move forward. And sometimes it's getting on a video like this. Sometimes I don't feel like it because I know I'm going to talk about something that can get a little dicey. I don't know if you follow some of my stuff. I can push the envelope. And it's a message that channels through me that says this is aligned to that what and that why. And when I recognize and take the inspired action that drops in the question that says, are you going to move this forward? When I step into that container, when I step into that energetic alignment, then I know and trust it will call forward the people that need to hear it. And so when you think about your who is much bigger than just this like construct of demographics or this container of, this person looks this way. It's a much deeper connected way to say, who lifts me up? Who do I get energy from in that space? And so I love a question. Diana just asked, what creates sudden low motivation? I would say a couple things. And one, I will answer that and say it all depends. And so what I mean by that is one, and for those of you that have been tuning in, I've been talking about human design and your own energetic blueprint. Some of it may be because you're rubbing up against something that's a block or programming or something that's out of alignment for your strategy and authority. So you may get low sudden motivation because one, you're in the comparatitis. You're playing the comparison game where you are looking at what everybody else is doing. And by the way, if you have that open head and ajna space, which I have wide open both, but even just the open head space, what happens is you find yourself inspired by everything. And then you tend to get into a space where you can have analysis paralysis because you can really get jacked up thinking, well, I got to do that. And I got to do that. And oh my God, where do I start? And there's so many opportunities and there's so many possibilities. So one of the things that may throw you out of alignment and may bring this like sudden rush of feeling like I'm depleted, I'm tired, oh my God, I just got knocked out of the game is because you literally just got knocked out of the game. What happened is you have an open center somewhere. So one of the reasons this happens is because you have an open center somewhere in your energetic blueprint, somewhere in your design that you are trying to show up like somebody who has a defined space, who has a consistent way to use that energy. And it's not the truth for how you show up, your strategy, your authority, and your design. And so what happens is you're amplifying this energy of someone else. So for example, another reason you might get low in motivation is if you have an open root center. Root center is the adrenalized pressure. Now I will tell you, I am a great example of how somebody can like get really sucked in if I'm not mindful of the fact my root center on my chart is my most defined area. I have a lot of adrenalized energy, which means I have this like battery pack that can actually connect to my sacral. So my sacral is where we get our generatorness. And we get the ability to like have this consistent energy that wants us to like do things. We're here to do work. The root center is this pressure center that actually is like a backup generator or a backup battery that you can plug in and like it can have you going nonstop. And anyone that's been around me, you know that sometimes I'm a little energizer bunny, right? Well, my root center is the most defined space in my chart. So, for example, if somebody has a very wide open or undefined root center is around me and I'm in my like, I gotta go and I'm dialed in and I'm in alignment and they're watching the way I work, which is extremely fast, it's extremely intense. I can do 3-day workshop and not be exhausted. And I could layer on like 3 more speaking engagements on top of it. People are like, oh my God, I got to keep up. And so what happens is we create this comparison again. And we say, oh my God, Candy's running like the Energizer Bunny. Why am I not? I gotta hustle. I gotta do this. I gotta do something else. And again, that's out of alignment. You're not here to work that way. And so when you give yourself the permission to say, oh, that's not my natural wiring. And again, it gives you that opportunity to sit and think about where that wiring is, what's happening. Now, the other thing, so that's just in your centers alone, right? Like in some of our design, another way might be that somebody might be a manifestor or projector, and they're not here to have that consistent energy at all. They're here to actually take deep periods of rest. And so Diana, like for you, one of the things I would say is if we knew what type you were, we would know how you're supposed to work, how you're supposed to, or what would serve you best. Let me say it that way, because there's no right or wrong and there's no good or bad. And there's a lot of nuances that it's not one thing in your chart that might pull you out or your energy. And we would have an understanding to say, well, it could be because of this, because you're not wired just in a general way, like this group of people over here or like me. And we could look at where some of those open spaces are. The other reason and the big reason we lose motivation, regardless of all the energy talk, for some of you are like, that's great. I don't buy into that. I don't want to. By the way, it's all physics. It's quantum physics. But anyway, that's another topic. If that's not something that you want to wrap your head around, you're like, that just sounds a lot of woo-woo nonsense to me. And great, it's just this energy. The other reason we get out, and I'm going to put it in really basic terms, is because we say yes to things that aren't for us. Because you're saying yes to things when you should have said hell no. You are not waiting and understanding what signals your fuck yes. Like you are not in a space of that visceral connection that says, that's mine. That's it. I feel it. And now I can feel the inspired action. You are getting yourself caught up in the grind of busy. And you're saying that you're either people pleasing, you're saying yes to a whole lot of shit that's not yours, and you're taking on action that's not aligned, because it's, again, that culture of we think more, right? When we work in organizations and corporate, in business, oftentimes the message is you need more stuff. You need to produce more stuff. And we're so focused on the output, the quantity of the output. We're not taking time to focus on the quality of the outcome. And so oftentimes why we lose motivation is because we're saying yes to the wrong things. Basic answer is because you're saying yes to a lot of things you really should be saying no, and you know that. When you are aligned to the things that light you up, motivation is not something you need. I will also tell you that we have this mindset that says, and here's the other thing that jacks you up or jacks us up, because I know I've been in this space too, is when I get inspired, then I will be motivated. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. If we keep waiting to be motivated, because sometimes we have to do the really scary thing or we have to do the hard thing before we can get into the stuff that feels easy. Sometimes that first step, even if it's inspired action, scares the crap out of us. So in order for us to step forward, like, I'm going to wait till I'm inspired. I'm going to wait. Well, I'm going to be really clear. That's never going to happen. It is not going to happen that you're going to get inspired out of the blue for something that is pushing you out of your comfort zone. There are very few people that are wired, and some of you with a defined willpower, maybe you can will yourself into this space. But if you are trying to wait for motivation to do that thing that scares the shit out of you, that's outside your comfort zone, that's going to dial things up and move things forward, you're going to be waiting for a really long time. You need to take action in order for the motivation to kick in. And so instead of waiting to be motivated to get momentum, you need to actually get momentum to get motivated. It's kind of like when, and I know this because I don't have an open ego as well, so willpower is not my jam, but going to the gym, I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm going to wait till I get inspired. I don't want to go work out at CG today. I don't want to go to Camp Gladiator. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And what happens is all I have to do is go make the instant choice, right? Because again, we don't have to go from 0 to 100. We don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. My first step is, can I put on my workout gear? I can do that. That's easy enough. Okay. I think about the old movie, What About Bob, right? Baby steps to the door, baby steps. When we can break down this big daunting thing that feels like it's pushing us, it feels like we're not motivated. When we can break it down to the first simple question that we need to ask. So for example, can I put on my workout clothes? Yep. Can I put on my running shoes? Yep. Can I walk out the door? Yep. And what happens is more times than not, once you get to that thing, you're like, man, I'm so glad I came. This feels great. Oh my God, I could do more than I thought I could. We have that space, and that creates the momentum that then reignites and engages the motivation and gets you moving forward. But again, if you're waiting for motivation to hit, good luck with that. It's just not going to happen. So oftentimes we've got to find what is the immediate inspired action that's calling. And sometimes it's going to be difficult. And I love, James Clear says this when he talks about atomic habits, that the first step is always the hardest until you have to do the first step again. And so how many of you have started something, you've been all gung ho, and this is why I hate New Year's resolutions. And I mean, I absolutely think they're complete and utter bullshit. The way we look at New Year's resolutions is because people come out of the gate and they're going to change everything. They're going to go from 0 to 100. They're going to like take a leap and get all the way to the top of the staircase or the summit. And they're not going to put the work in to create the discipline, to create the right momentum so that they can stay in the motivation of knowing why. Again, there's that why. Why am I doing this in the first place, right? Because otherwise what happens is they take that first step, which was really challenging. It pushed you out of your comfort zone. It's kicking your ass a little bit. And then they fall backwards. And when you have to take that second first step, it becomes even harder because you know the gap of what's required to actually do it in the first place. And so now there's a story, now there's an energy, now there's a whole lot of stuff that you've just amplified on that first step that says, oh crap, I got to do this again, right? So the best way to do that is to take incremental inspired action and do things that allow you some consistent repetition that then create that space of, and James Clear also talks about, look, a habit's only as good as you have the habit. A habit is a forever, right? So if it's something you want to put in place. And so the same thing about motivation. What can I do today to stimulate my motivation? And so you can ask yourself those questions. Why am I feeling depleted? Am I hungry? Am I not hydrated? Because think about, some of those are the reasons we're not taking care of ourselves. So are my cups full and overflowing? Let me check. Spiritually, how am I feeling? Mentally, how am I feeling? Emotionally, how am I feeling? Physically, how am I feeling? Energetically, how am I feeling? Am I hydrated? Am I hungry? You can go down the litany of questions. And then you can say, okay, still, yes, Monday was a great example. I had zero motivation. I was not inspired. So I'm like, you know what? My mom even came down because she's living with me right now. She said, are you coloring for business or coloring for fun? I said, both. I said, I need a creative urge. And right now I'm so far in my head that what I need to do is I need to play. I need to give myself. And so I spent a couple hours and I colored. Now, mind you, a client of mine gave me this awesome swear word coloring book. So it was like extra fun, but it's that space of, I gave myself permission to do something different. And then from there, I went and worked out. And from there, I took a bath. And come Tuesday, I was like on all cylinders yesterday. And even my assistant was like, wow, what a change in energy. I said, yep, I did what I needed to do because I know what primes my tank to get me motivated. So again, clarity is everything. Do you know your what, your why, your who? When you know those three things, it's a lot easier to get back on track when you feel the motivation is low. The other thing is, I would say, do you understand your own wiring, your own energetic blueprint, and your own design? Because here's the thing. If this is work that you're like, wow, I would really like to dig into this. I would really like to learn more. This is something I really need assistance. And guess what? I have coaches. I work with people to do this work as well. I do have a container that is right now open for enrollment until Sunday because we are kicking things off next week. It is my Dare to Awaken Your Dynamic Dream. It is really bringing in the framework, which is how to answer these questions. So not only is the what, why, and who part of what we do, we bring a whole lot of depth into how do you get clear around what you want. It's that clarity. It's that framework. It's my proprietary dream model that allows you to figure out your desires, your rocks, your essentials, your approach, and the milestones. So there's this very kind of masculine energy that says, what's the framework? How do I get clear? And we overlay that by looking at your unique energetic blueprint. So we bring in your human design and your gene keys to map out some of these very things around where you may feel like motivation pulls you out, where you may feel like you're misaligned, or how you work, how you rest, knowing your leadership lines, knowing how to magnetize your individual language and magnetize the message that you're here to bring to the world. If that's something that is of interest to you, then I will drop it in the chats once I jump off of here. Check it out. Like I said, the enrollment period is open until Sunday. It is a container where we're going to do some really deep integrated work. There's going to be a lot of space for contemplation for you to kind of play with things. It's going to be a play space, and it's also going to be a workspace. It's going to be a space where you're going to get some massive clarity so that you know which inspired action is calling to you, and you can recalibrate your due north in your own personal GPS. And so this is an opportunity. It is the first time I am bringing this level of work in a group capacity. This is the work that I have been doing for years with my one-on-one clients and a lot of the organizations that I work with, executive leaders, corporate, government, you name it. I am now bringing this depth and this space in this container. So if it is of something that's interest to you, check it out. Would love to have you in the container. Like I said, it's going to be intimate. It's going to be integrated. We are going to do some really cool stuff, and it's going to give you a very solid framework to help you get clear. And we're going to overlay your energetic blueprint and your design so that we can map out some things that are specific for you. And you will do that in this container. It's 7 weeks long. The other thing that I just want to let you know is, for some people, they want to be in it live. I always encourage that. I love the live. And you can also do it where you can wait for the replays. There will be replays for everything, and you will have lifetime access to that. You can always do it. I know that there are some containers that I want to do the replay so I can take my time and really dig in and contemplate the material. You can do both. You will have access to it. I will be adding some extra fun bonuses and things throughout that as well. And so again, I will drop that in the comments. But with that, what I hope you take away from today is the 3 essential questions I want you to ask yourself. What is your what? What is your why? And who is your who? So with that, this is Candy. I will catch up with y'all later. Make it a great day, and I will chat with you soon. Bye, y'all.